Hey NAI football fans, Corey Thorpe here with another edition of the NAIFBALL Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAI fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com. All right, NAI football fans, this is Corey Thorpe back with another edition of the NAIF Ball Podcast, the first one of the off season. That's right, happy 2025 to you, even though it's it's still just a couple days before Christmas when we're recording this because I'm a lazy bum and I don't want to record this the week of Christmas. So we don't know who's winning the national championship yet. I've got my Grandview shirt on. Not I'm gonna I'll do that, but I got my Kaiser jacket. So I'm not gonna go one way or the other. Don't need to shoot myself in the foot just yet. But we are going to kick off this season with head coach Miguel Regalado of the Baker Wildcats. Coach, have you bought all your presents yet?
I will be totally honest with you, Corey. I have nothing to do with that process. My wife takes care of all of that. I'm as surprised as anybody when our kids open their gifts on Christmas Day. And she takes care of everything during the season. She takes care of everything in the off season while I'm recruiting. And yes, it's done. None of it was done by me, but it's done.
So does she buy her own presents?
About 2 years ago, we told ourselves we're no longer giving each other presents.
Okay, that's fair.
We're kind of out of that. Yeah,
All right.
we're done with that. We're about done with our son. He's 22, so he's about over that. My daughter's a freshman in high school. I think we're just at that point now where we're just kind of we enjoy each other, and we do every year in Ohio with her parents and or her mother, I should say, and so it is what it is. But any gifts that are bought are bought by her.
Fair enough. Well, Coach, it was a good year for Baker. It's another playoff run. Ho hum, another playoff run. Whoop de doo. Yeah, you never. You hope you never get used to that, but we're 2 years into our new conference structure here in the Heart, where you've got Benedictine and Grandview and two different divisions now. What are your thoughts on the new conference structure? Even adding William Woods now and having a full 14.
I think it's been great for the conference. The my only complaint against it, Corey, is we're getting to a point now where travel is so expensive,
Yeah.
and we're continuing to expand our conference to that places that are further and further. But the football part of it is great. I mean, you're talking about a Missouri Baptist team that is as good as any team that we have in our conference. I mean, they are really, really physical, really, really well coached. William Woods was no joke. I mean, I can relate because I was a head coach of a brand new program at Clark, and at least we had a year. We had a year to develop 50 guys on the roster, and then going to play with a bunch of redshirt and true freshmen in the Heart. They jumped right into it, and they had some good players on that team. So you're talking about the bottom part of our league is competitive right away. And then you're looking at three teams out of the South going to the playoffs. Grandview's going undefeated. Benedictine and Grandview go to the Final Four. I mean, it's just a really, really good conference. So you can't doubt the football part. I do. I'm not a fan of the travel. Even when I was at Clark in Iowa, I mean, those are some really, really long trips for student athletes. But it is what it is. It's just really good football, good competitive games every single week, and that's all you can ask for.
Well, let's take a look at the season that was. I guess by the time this thing airs, will be nearly last year. But we'll start with your first big game. Unfortunately, it's a 27-24 loss to Benedictine in a game where you go back and forth with Benedictine, and in the end, it is a close loss. But I want to pull out those three drives after halftime where y'all just go 3 and out, 5 plays for 10 yards, and 3 and out again, and just talk about how crucial that was coming out of halftime and not being able to put points up on the board against Benedictine.
Well, there's you can say and that's kind of a cliche, but in big games you can talk about 3 or 4 big plays or moments in a game that change. And for me, Corey, it was really when we finally battled back and took the lead, and you could just feel the air suck out of that stadium, and you could feel the juice on our sideline. But what championship football teams do, in my opinion, is they answer. And you got to give Benedictine credit. They came back, and I don't remember what the drive was, how many yards, but they took it right back down and scored and took the lead right back and never relinquished it again after that. To me, that was the biggest part of that game. And then, of course, you always talk about finishing a half strong or coming out and starting a second half strong. They came out, they regrouped in that halftime, and they came out and they put the clamps on us. And you have the pick six that we threw. They answered after we took the lead. Those are 2 of the 3 biggest plays in that game. And I told our staff all year long this was going to be a 1-game season, and that's no disrespect to any of our opponents. I knew the Benedictine game was the one. That was going to be the one that told everything. I think the winner of that game was going to have a bye. The winner of that game was going to have be in the driver's seat in the playoffs, and it ended up not in our favor. But it was just a great football game. And like I said, and before we went on live, we could not get Dooley to make a mistake, and he just played really fantastic. And we made a couple mistakes, he did not, and that was the difference in the game.
And then we go a couple of months down here, and you have a game. You're getting close to the end of the season. You got to have that game against Mid-America Nazarene in Olathe. It's a must-win for both teams. If Mid-America wins this one, they win the conference championship. Y'all deliver the victory back to Baker. The big thing I want to pull out of that one is the last couple of drives from Mid-America Nazarene where they have the fumble and then the pick. Talk about making a team like that make crucial errors in crucial times of the game.
That was a complete dogfight. Here's the thing. We felt, going back to last year, we had a good game plan against the quarterback. I think the quarterback play in our league is phenomenal. Jackson Waring was just named the player of the year in the conference. I think you look at the 2 quarterbacks on our side with Mid-America's and Dooley at Benedictine, you're talking about some phenomenal quarterback play. But we felt really good about our game plan against Mid-America. We knew that we were going to be able to control the field position. We knew that we were going to play well on defense. What we had to question, or what I questioned, is could we finish drives? And to give them a bunch of credit, we could not finish drives. Corey, you'd be shocked how many short fields we had in that game. That was a game. You look at the amount of short fields that we had that we could not finish in the end zone. Was incredible, and we were making them have to drive the entire field. They couldn't do it against our defense. And so it was just it was a matter of our defense really just taking over that football game. And as a head coach, even though I coach the offensive line, I coach special forces. I coach punt team. I coach kick return, punt return. So when you're having to make decisions on 4th down on the 34-yard line, where it's punt, and let your defense play, those are hard decisions to make because nobody in the fans likes those. They want to see your team go for it on 4th down. But at that point in the game, I just knew our defense was in complete control of that game. I knew they were not going to give up points. And so we just continued to play the field position, suffocate the field, and shorten the field. And in the end, it turned out in our favor. But really, in the Mid-America game, you have to give our credit to Coach Pauly and that defensive unit. Offensively, we did not turn the ball over, but we just couldn't finish in the red zone. And it was a really, really tight football game, but it was just fantastic to get in there and get a really, really tight win.
and then go into what is obviously the end of your season there, another absolute dogfight between y'all and U Pike, and unlike in the Mid America game where you're able to get um, in a couple of interceptions down the stretch, or an interception, a fumble down the stretch to seal the game. This time it's y'all with the interceptions
Mhm.
coming down and doing that. Um, Talk to me about that game, and we had talked about early on in the week whether it was going to be Yulesgar or Hegeman. And we had thought that it was going to be Yulesgar. Talk to me about the decision to go with Sam in that game.
Yeah, Truman, he since the Benedictine game, he came out late in the Benedictine game with a high ankle sprain. He's a really, really a tough dude, Corey. He's a guy that you have to yank him out of a football game. He's not going to come out. And so, Truman, we gave him a couple weeks there in the middle of the season to get himself healthy and get himself ready for the stretch run. We thought he was there. He nicked it up again, and it was so bad that we just couldn't play him in that game. We dressed him for a complete emergency with the total intention at U Pike, if we had to put him in the game, to just hand the ball off. But bottom line is, we had the best backup quarterback in the league, in our opinion, with Sam Hegeman. And so Sam Hegeman's not the reason we lost that football game. I think what you have to look at is a couple of things. Number one, the committee's decision to make us play in the first round, when you have an identical record with Mid America, Baker beats Mid America. You know, people argue, do they agree with that? I felt for about 3 or 4 games there at the end of the season that we were not playing well on offense, and I thought to myself, if we don't score enough points here and win well, there's a chance they might give Mid America that bye. And unfortunately for us, that's what happened. We did not win well enough, or on the scoreboard, and so we ended up having to play that game with Sam. And Sam is a good quarterback. We scored enough points to win that game. I give a ton of credit to UPike. They traveled a long way. That's not easy. We had to do it against Georgetown a year ago, and they had two dudes, Corey, that we couldn't get on the ground. They had a receiver and a tailback that we were there, we were on the spot, we were ready to go, and we just couldn't get them to the ground. And to me, that's them playing with a ton of effort and kind of a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. They probably were told they're not going to come in there and win at Baker, and they just battled, and it was a track meet back and forth. In the end, we're going driving to win it. And I had already told my defense, I said, give me one more stop. And when we score to tie this game, we will go for two in the win, and it's over. This is going to be over. Whether we win or lose, it's over. Because you could see it in their faces. They were done. And, we had a guy open. We missed him. And, in the end, it didn't turn out in our favor. Again, it had nothing to do with Truman not being in that game. I thought Sam competed his butt off. I thought our offense played as well as they played all year long. Our defense played their butts off. They had two guys we couldn't get to the ground, and you got to give U Pike a bunch of credit on that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that is. I mean, I imagine for you, Pike, having to hear the the noise, the rat poison of, oh, why did they get in? People not understanding how our league chooses playoff contenders, but still hearing that's, and then to go in and do that. Yeah,
100%.
I imagine they had a bit of a chip on their shoulder.
100%. And you meet their head coach, Corey, and sharp guy. You can tell that guy's very important to that university, and there's a reason they're building a new stadium, and they've got multiple sets of helmets. They're doing really well. There's not a lot of small colleges that are thriving right now, and they're thriving. Most are surviving, but they're thriving, and I think a lot of it has to do with their head coach, and their kids came in completely classy and played their butts off.
Well, let's take a look at your team going forward. Obviously, You do get Truman back. It'll be his senior season. That's a guy that when he's healthy is, like you mentioned earlier, one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, a true dual threat quarterback. We'd watched him. Obviously, the numbers on the ground weren't as there as much this season. Probably a lot to do with that ankle. Um, but we've seen him in years past just absolutely terrorize defenses, both on through the air and on the ground. Um, and he's got a lot of weapons on the edges to go to, like Gage Warren out on the end. Maybe that wide receiver core is a little overlooked. Did not catch a first or second all conference nod there, but what you're going to have to figure out is who's going to run the football. I mean, good and well, running the football is it's a whale of a big deal at Baker.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think you summed it up perfectly. You can kind of sit back and say, man, Truman had a rough year and didn't have as good a year. He's still 3-1 in touchdown to interception ratio. He's still over 150 in rating. He's nearly 70% complete. He's a good football player. I think when Truman's healthy, he will be back in 25. He will be ready to roll, and he'll be a force to be reckoned with in the league again. Uh, Three of his top four targets at wide receiver were freshmen. Had never played a college football game until 2024. We're excited about those guys coming back. But you're right. You look from 23 to 24. What were we missing on the ground? A guy like Rashawn Graves that can take it to the house on any given play. I think we were pounded out and grinded out. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at some point, you got to have a big explosive play. And we just, I think we may have had one or two of them this year on the ground. So that's not enough. Most of our explosive run game came from the quarterback position. So that's something that's got to be addressed in the offseason with strength and conditioning, with recruiting. We will. But I feel very good. I mean, this is an offense that put up 40 points a game. And like I said, Truman was banged up. We weren't getting production at the running back position. So I feel very good when we return all of our pieces and address some in the recruiting process. It's going to be a pretty good group in 25.
Defensively, you've got some holes to fill, especially along your defensive line. You've got to find some guys that are going to control the line of scrimmage there. You're also going to have to figure out who your shot callers in the secondary, especially in your safety positions, are going to be after losing two all-conference seniors in Thad Metcalf and Deshaun Lewis. 7 PBUs between the two. Um, and for a defense like yours that is big on turnovers, you're going to have to figure out who's going to be your ball hawks back there at safety.
Yeah, I say to our team all the time on defense, for us to be a great football team, you got to have two dynamic corners. I think we've got those. I think PJ McCallum is dynamic. I think Cam Porter is dynamic. Cam Porter is a true freshman that started every single game from the day he got on campus in August. So I feel good about that. The second part of that defense is having a really good front seven, really good, especially up front on the front defensive line. I felt like we had that this year, and we did. We had the second best defense in the league behind Grandview, but we are losing quite a bit of production there, with Brian and Dylan Gillespie and Lee Marshall. And so we've got to address, number one, a guy that can get to the quarterback consistently one-on-one. I think, Corey, when I look back on our season in 24, what hurt us is the inability to win a one-on-one pass rush situation. I think Coach Pauly had to design those. And sometimes as a defense coordinator, when you're forced to have to design those all the time and be perfect, that puts a lot of stress on him and puts a lot of stress on our secondary. So we've got to develop guys that can get to the quarterback one-on-one, whether it's people that we have on the roster now or recruit somebody that can do that. That's going to be a big part of it. The safety position is your quarterback. That's the most important position on our defense. They get everybody in the back seven aligned. And you had Thad Metcalf, that's a second-team All-American, Deshaun Lewis, that maybe didn't have sexy stats, but was a dang good football player. He'll be a graduate assistant here for us next year, working with our secondary. But we got to replace those guys. And there's some really good talented dudes on the roster right now. One of them is Cam Porter's twin brother, identical twin brother, Elijah. Elijah's going to be a really good football player. I can't wait to see what he does this spring. And we've got some other guys on the roster that can be there, but we're going to have to figure it out pretty quickly in spring. But we've lost quite a bit on our defense. Kenan Carn was Mr. Baker All-American in 23, Defensive Player of the Year in 23. Austin Hollins and Adrian Tamayo split time at the sandbacker. They're both graduated. So Manoa was our third inside backer. Manoa is graduating. So we got a lot to fill. But you know what I feel good about, Corey, is Tucker Pauley. We'll have them ready to go. Whoever we put in front of Coach Pauley, you're talking about the two-time assistant coach of the year in the South. He'll have them ready to go. We just got to find them some pieces.
So we've talked about a little bit how good the heart is, and obviously as we sit here, we've talked about Benedictine making the Final Four. We talked about Grandview obviously is playing in a couple days when we record this, and they've had a whale of a run. Maybe a little chip on their shoulder from last year when they disappointed a little bit in the playoffs. But what I've noticed over the last couple years in the heart is teams like Graceland, who when we started this back in 2018, Graceland was awful. Awful is almost putting it nicely, and that's a 7-win team, a team that had a mathematical chance of winning the Hart North down to the last game. You've talked about Missouri Baptist. I know they gave y'all a fit there that last game of the season. You've got a Moval team who is starting to wake up a little bit. Which one of the teams in the Hart would you say, I don't know, scares you the most, but is the next contender, or has their window kind of coming open to where you're going, those guys, it might be next year, might be the year after that, but that I can see that window opening on that team?
I think you've talked about a couple of them already. We're pretty fortunate in 24. We didn't have to play Grandview. Grandview was not on our roster or on our schedule. Graceland was not on our schedule. And I tell you what, I would have loved to have seen the Grandview Graceland game at the end of the year with Graceland's quarterback and Monroe, and I would have loved to have seen that football game. I think that would have been a great football game to watch. You talk about Missouri Valley, and Corey, I always say this, and when you're talking about college football teams, you always got to look at who is the head coach. And you look at Graceland, he's done a fantastic job. He did a fantastic job at Lindenwood. He's a dang good football coach. You look at Missouri Valley. When he was at Peru State, he did a fantastic job. He took Peru State from the bottom to all of a sudden they're winning 6 games and they're in the game with everybody. Now he's doing the exact same thing at Missouri Valley. He's winning on defense and special forces until he finds those pieces on offense. Missouri Baptist. I mean, there's some really good football coaches in our league, and that's when you start to have competitive programs. But if you ask me, if everybody returns at Graceland next year, look out. That's going to be a wild football game. I'm thankful that we don't have them until the final game of the year, because hopefully that's the wrong way to say it. Hopefully there's some people that are not there that we don't have to play, but they're a dangerous football team. Even you look at Culver Stockton. I mean, Culver Stockton looked like horrible at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, they're scoring 40 points a game, and it's just they rebounded. I mean, it's good coaching. It's just a great league from top to bottom, and But if you ask me, Graceland is dangerous. If Monroe comes back, the quarterback comes back, head coach comes back, that's a really dangerous football team.
Well, Coach, it's getting to the end of 2024. We're, kind of looking here at 2025 and starting to turn the calendar over and New Year's resolutions and all that good stuff. So what area of your program, whether it's something on the field or something off the field, are you really wanting to focus in on in 25?
On the field, I think it's toughness, Corey. Listen, you look at stats and you look at all those things. We have a good football team on defense. We have a good football team on offense. We have a good football team on special forces. We have a good football team in the classroom. We were 3.3 after the fall semester. We have really good kids. Where I look at us and think that we need to improve, and it was the biggest weakness when I got here in 23 but we didn't practice physical and we fixed that. We've started to practice physical in 23 and we begin to get practice more and more physical. We have to get tougher. And what I mean by tough is we know we're a good football team. We know we can look at our schedule and say, okay, we're going to beat them, and them. This one, boy, it's going to be a tough one. This one, boy, that's going to be a tough one. And when we get into those games, I need to know that we are a tougher football team than who we're going against. And, you have to be careful at our level because I can't afford to get a guy hurt doing all these tough, murder, death, kill drills and trying to develop toughness. And all of a sudden you're lining up without your best players at the gate. So we've got to find some creative ways in the off season, creative ways during the season, summer, and then some really smart but creative ways during the season to develop physical and mental toughness on this football team, so that they're able to get past that hump. Right now, that hump for us is the first or second round of playoffs. You said it earlier when we went on. We expect to be in the playoffs at Baker. That's a given. You're supposed to be. Um, but we've got to find a way to break through the way we did in 16. That team in 16 that went undefeated to play St. Francis and lost in the national title. In 12, they lost in the first round. In 13, they lost in the second round. In 15, they lost in the second round. Then they finally broke through in 16. We've got to find a way to do the same thing here, and we'll figure it out.
Coach, we appreciate you coming on. We're really looking forward to it. I mean, we talk about so many conferences and divisions having so much parity, and we've talked about it, here where the heart is so good. But I honestly, even though we're not technically done at this point with the 24 season, I really do look forward to seeing what develops in 25 and where we go. And to tell you the truth, I haven't looked a whole lot at the court decision that came down a couple of days ago with the kid from Vanderbilt and JUCO and what that could mean for an institution like the NAIA. I'll have to take a look at the court's logic and see if I can suss out what that could mean. Might be a question I'll ask to the home office later on in the offseason, but we could feasibly see an NAIA nationally that is better than it ever has been if that court ruling means what it could mean.
It's college football is crazy right now. You're looking at high school kids that are wondering where is their place. You're looking at players that are playing into their seventh, eighth years. You're looking at a player that's getting a ruling from a court saying he could have a sixth or seventh year. You have thousands and thousands of kids jumping in and out of this portal, and every tweet starts with first and foremost, I want to thank so and so. It's nuts. It's absolutely crazy, Corey. And there was a time when I was at the NAIA level that I loved it because I had nothing to do with all that. I was just about developing kids, developing a program, teaching guys how to be better people, and preparing them for life after football. Now I'm like, what is going on here? And so it's going to be an interesting time. I told my wife last night, I haven't slept in a couple of nights, and I'm just thinking, what is this offseason going to be for the NAIA, for college football period, for college football coaches, for small colleges? It's just crazy right now. And all I can do is put my head down, continue to live by our mission statement here at Baker, which is those things I just talked about. And whatever happens after that is out of our control.
Coach, appreciate you. Y'all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And, we'll see whether we get the heart of the sun here on Monday. By the time this comes out, obviously, we'll know for sure. But y'all have a fantastic rest of your year.
You as well, my friend. Thank you for everything. And I hate to say it, but go Vikings. Go get it done, Grandview.